Hey yo everyone! The Switch 2 has been out for about 3 months now, and while the system itself has been selling gangbusters, users are finding that there haven't been too many third-party ports to the console. Sure, there have been some marquee crossovers such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Hogwarts Legacy, but other than that, the third-party support has been suspiciously quiet on Nintendo's new platform. So, let's take a look at the Switch 2's third-party conundrum and maybe even discuss why these ports are having a tough time making it onto the next generation of Nintendo gaming. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Alright, let's get it. Alrighty, let's start with the million-dollar question. Where the heck are the Switch 2 ports? Well, as it turns out, they're anxiously awaiting the green light from Nintendo. For some odd reason, Nintendo seems to be withholding their Switch 2 dev kits, only allowing certain developers and games to get access to them. It was reported last week by Digital Foundry that Nintendo is apparently asking developers to ship their games for the Switch 1 unless it has specific gameplay needs that would require Switch 2 hardware, such as the new mouse controls or camera feature. As a result, we end up with games like that weird, terrifying campfire simulator. Here, take a listen to what John Linneman of Digital Foundry had to say about it.
There's been a lot of talk about this lately, that Nintendo seems to be almost discouraging Switch 2 development to some degree, where I've spoken with plenty of developers where they were either told that their game, they should just ship it on Switch 1 and rely on backwards compatibility. There's a lot of developers that are unable to get Switch 2 dev kits. We talked to a lot of devs at Gamescom this year, and so many of them said the same things. They want to ship on Switch 2. They would love to do Switch 2 versions. They can't get the hardware.
Now, this is so strange, isn't it? I can't recall ever hearing of a company that would purposefully withhold dev kits to game developers. Then again, this is Nintendo we're talking about here, and they're not exactly known to do things by the book. But regardless, why would Nintendo make attaining Switch 2 dev kits so difficult? There have already been rumors floating around that there are no Switch 2 games, and the lack of any real third-party presence certainly isn't helping. Like, I thought when the Switch 2 came out, there would be a bunch of third-party ports ready to go and popping up all over the eShop. But besides a very few select AAA titles, the Switch 2 hasn't really had any console-exclusive ports. So why isn't Nintendo handing out these developer kits? I couldn't find an actual quote from Nintendo, but Polygon is reporting that there is a supposed backlog of dev kits, meaning that there is this list of developers out there who are waiting for that Switch 2 dev kit, but haven't necessarily got one yet. And it's not just smaller indie studios or anything, some of them are major publishers. Nate the Hate, who has a pretty decent track record of being a reliable industry insider, has said that some studios within Capcom, Sega, and Bandai Namco are still waiting for their dev kits. Supposedly, a bunch of third-party games are in the pipeline waiting to be announced, but they just can't because without a proper developer kit, these studios can't give accurate launch windows. Besides this, what I believe to be artificial scarcity with Switch 2 kits, Nintendo is also requiring a bunch of weird security around it. Reportedly, Russell Kay, a senior product manager for GameMaker, said that they had to have a locked room and only certain people had access to the kit. What? These aren't nuclear missile launch codes here. Why is there so much security for a video game developer kit? Is this to help reduce piracy maybe? I guess I know that Nintendo has been cracking down on that stuff lately, but surely.
Don't call me Shirley.
Major AAA publishers would have more of a proven track record than the Campfire guys. I mean, come on. You're telling me these guys aren't turning around and selling their dev kits for a quick buck? That would probably net them more money than this nightmare. Now, like I said earlier, Nintendo hasn't made an official response to any of these statements, but based on the numerous studios all reporting the same grievances, I think it's safe to assume that Nintendo really is being a pain in the butt with these kits. But I can't figure out the why of it all. Could it be because Nintendo didn't want to leak their Switch 2 hardware? That would explain the lack of ports at launch, but we're 3 months into the system's lifecycle. We need some impressive games to show off why people should be upgrading to a new console. Now, apparently the original Switch also had trouble keeping up with demand for developer kits, but I think that's because, one, Nintendo was probably doing their dumb stuff where they're being stingy with their new system again, and two, third-party developers were probably a bit gun-shy after the failure of the Wii U. Did they really want to commit the resources to developing a port for a system that had so much uncertainty around it? I mean, it paid off in the end, obviously, the original Switch is a great way to play indie games and older ports, but I completely understand why smaller developers might have been initially hesitant. Now with the Switch 2, we have the opposite problem. Devs want their game on the platform and are straight up being refused. Nintendo is apparently pushing for developers to release their games on the original Switch and rely on the Switch 2 upscaling. But why? It doesn't make sense, dude. I guess I understand that the Switch 1 has a massive install base, but wouldn't Nintendo want people to start switching to the new hardware? And isn't it beneficial for everyone involved if those Switch 2 games were their best version? Like, I don't want a watered down port of Doom the Dark Ages on the Switch 1 and then expect the Switch 2 to upscale the hell out of it. I want a game to be ported over, completely optimized, taking full advantage of the Switch 2 hardware because it really is significantly more powerful than that original Switch. Games like Cyberpunk 2077 and even Star Wars Outlaws, which apparently runs really well on the Switch 2, would not be possible on the Switch 1 in any capacity. This reasoning that a Switch 2 game needs to show off the actual Switch 2 gimmicks like the mouse controls or game chat in order to get a dev kit is so stupid, isn't it? Like, people understand that the Switch 2 is different than the original Switch, if that's the point that Nintendo is trying to make here. People aren't paying $450 without doing the bare minimum of research. This isn't like the Wii and Wii U where it was completely understandable if someone didn't know the difference. I mean, come on, what kind of naming scheme is this? And Xbox, you're not any better. With the Switch 2, it literally could not be any clearer that this is a brand new piece of hardware. It's called the Switch 2. I mean, shouldn't more technically demanding games count as part of the Switch 2 hardware shtick? You're not gonna get a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 running on the original Switch, so wouldn't porting that over to the Switch 2, even if it doesn't take advantage of all the console's new bells and whistles, still be a highlight of what the new system is capable of? I just don't get it, man. Clearly, the console is capable of way more than what we've seen so far. Cyberpunk 2077 is a real showcase of what the Switch 2 can do. And with how fast the system is selling, it makes sense that third-party developers would want their game on the platform. From Nintendo's perspective, you'd think that they would want those customers to have a reason to buy their new, expensive console. Like, seriously, are they trying to persuade people into just buying the original Switch? I guess they did just increase the MSRP, and it is pretty close to becoming the best-selling console of all time, but that's bad business, dude. You know what this whole situation kind of feels like? It's that classic Chris Rock bit where we have the grand opening and the grand closing.
Grand opening, grand closing.
The Switch 2 launched and everyone is hyped, and now it's just sitting in purgatory, slowly being drip-fed third-party games that actually take full advantage of the beefed up hardware. When is this thing gonna get rolling, man? Eventually, Nintendo is supposed to start getting Call of Duty games, but with the way they're holding on to these dev kits, I can't imagine Activision is gonna be rolling out Warzone in the system anytime soon. Or really any other ports that would have been a great fit for launch. God, like, I would really have loved to have seen some third-party games that really push the Switch 2 to its limits. Especially since there haven't been too many first-party launches on the console yet. Games like Fallout 4, Red Dead 2, Marvel Rivals, or heck, even God of War or Spider-Man. Sony is experimenting porting some of their first-party games over to other platforms, and the popularity of the Switch 2 would give them a huge audience boost for some of their titles. I don't think either Xbox or PlayStation see the Switch 2 as a direct competitor to them, as it definitely has its limitations, so this console should be the ultimate port machine. Unless those rumors of the next PlayStation being a hybrid like the Switch are real, which, even if they are, that console ain't launching for another 2 years, at least. Plus, Sony's been pretty dormant these past couple of years, so instead of re-releasing The Last of Us for the umpteenth time, maybe they can actually get some fresh blood into their fan bases. God, see, this is why this whole thing is just so frustrating. everyone seems to want to put their game on the Switch too, except for Nintendo. I don't know. No, I'm just rambling in circles at this point, aren't I? Look, I'm sure this will get resolved sooner rather than later, but man, what a bizarre way to kick off the Switch 2 generation. Hopefully this isn't the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the system's life cycle, and the Switch 2 can go on and have the same level of third-party support that its predecessor had. But I suppose only time will tell. So until then, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of Nintendo's weird approach to Switch 2 ports? Have you gotten your hands on a Switch 2 already? If you have, what are your thoughts? If you haven't, tell me why not. I'd love to hear all of your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.